You join us for this amazing talk on intuition. I'm so excited. I met Megan through a friend of mine recently, and I wanted to invite her on, and we're going to have an amazing talk here. So, intuition has always been a huge part of my life. It's been that steady voice that has just guides me. And if I tune in, right, it's that slowing down and listening. And there was a great quote from someone that I heard many years ago that he listened to his intuition 95% of the time, and the 5% that he didn't, he wished he had. So let's just think about that a little bit. For me, intuition has often shown up in small, undeniable nudges and sometimes very big ones. I'm honored to explore this topic with Megan today. Her work invites us to trust that inner wisdom and see beyond what meets the eye. Megan is a professional clairvoyant, tarot card reader, astrologer, and author with more than 30 years of experience in spiritual counseling. Creator of the Couture Tarot deck, she blends mysticism with fashion and art. It's absolutely beautiful. And she's the author of several books on tarot and astrology and co hosts the popular podcast So Define. Welcome, Megan.
Oh, thank you so much. What a great introduction, Joni. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm really excited to talk to everybody about intuition. I'm very passionate about connecting into intuition.
Oh, I'm just so thrilled that you're here. So I want to get to know you a little bit better and your experience because some people say that they've had a gift from a
Mm.
very early age, and that's a part of your story. Will you share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. And, as a child, I was very tapped into the psychic realm. And of course, then I didn't understand that I was tapped into the psychic realm. I was just experiencing a lot of psychic phenomena. And I would see things, I would hear things. And, as a small child, this is very disorienting. And, when I talked to my parents about it, what they would say, was, and this is back, way back. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
now there
yeah.
might be a different answer, right? Oh, you have such a great imagination, Megan. You know what I mean? Your imagination, these are your imaginary friends you're connecting into. How lovely, right? And then I had something happen to me that was really traumatic and I will never forget it. And I was 8 years old and I had my first out of body experience. And it was very traumatic to me. And I actually experienced my soul or my energy or my presence leaving my body. And it was through my third chakra. And I was literally pulled from my third chakra. And then I felt myself spinning through space. And then at
Must have
some
been
point,
so scary at
you know
8
what,
to have that
Joni,
type of experience.
it was terrifying. And I had no context for it. Again, nowadays we talk about intuition, we talk about the psychic realm, we talk about the astral plane. Back then, there was no information or context about what was happening to me. And I think a lot of people that are very sensitive or connected into their gifts oftentimes feel like they're crazy because they're having this experience that doesn't make sense. And so after that experience, and I remember writing in my diary, my little 8-year-old diary, writing down, this is so dramatic. My life will never be the same again. And I felt like that was the beginning of trauma. The other thing is, I grew up in Alabama in the South. And this was in the late 60s and stuff. And I remember we would go to like different forts or battlegrounds, right? And I could actually feel and experience the blood from like the Civil War coming out of the ground. And so I think it was kind of like the perfect storm of being, in this very ripe place with so many ghosts and these abilities starting to develop. And it was very challenging.
So I can't imagine how scary that would have been. So as you progressed into a teenager, beyond that, you really young time when you had that mind-bending, life-changing experience, It was traumatic and it continued to be for a while. So take us through your teen and early 20 years.
Yeah, I think, and maybe this is where they say that children are more in tune energetically or psychically because it hasn't been, beaten out of us, so much.
Mhm.
But as I got more into my teens, a lot of this grounded out a bit. I do remember my mom gave me my first set of tarot cards when I was 14 years old. And that, in some ways, really grounded me because it gave me this ability to work with energies and archetypes and tap into things in a way where I had a vehicle for it, right? And then I went off to college and I put all of this aside. I was a journalism major, all that kind of stuff, right? And I didn't think about it and I was pretty normal. I mean, I was, pretty sensitive, but there wasn't a lot of psychic stuff happening. And I worked in corporate America, and we can talk about that too as well. But one day I was living with this guy who was an artist, and he had a studio upstairs, and he brought down a deck of tarot cards without knowing that I had ever read the tarot, and said, I think you might like these. And so again, then the whole journey of exploration opened up again.
I love that story so much. And Megan and I have so many uh, similarities in our life of being in corporate and being communications and, having these moments in our life that have really stood out. I'd love for you to share that. I think it's so interesting that your mom tuned into your gifts at a young age at 14, and that you later found out that in your lineage, in your ancestry, there had been more.
Yeah, indeed. I think that, I think both my parents were pretty psychic, pretty much that way, very sensitive beings. But I did find out in my 30s when I really started therapy, because once I kind of, got into my late 20s, all the psychic stuff started coming back in ungrounded, traumatic ways once again. And this was after I had quit corporate America. And my dad's mother, my grandmother, who was a McKinsey, I didn't find out until my 30s when I kind of started to inquire that my dad told me, "Oh yeah, your grandmother, McKinsey, had the second sight. She was Scottish. She had the second sight, and yeah, she was clairvoyant, and she passed this gift down to me and to you." And I remember just sitting there, like going, "Well, good to know." Like, where was this information before? Because she was the
Yeah.
crazy grandma. She was the
Oh,
crazy
interesting.
grandmother, and she had bright red hair, and she wore red lipstick, and she would say, in a past life I was an Egyptian princess. And so she was very, I'm sure I take a bit after, her. But so it was always like, oh, the crazy ones, oh, the crazy ones. And there was also a lot of addiction in that side of the family. So I kind of feel like they were swept under the carpet as kind of the crazy bad side of the family. But when I found that out, it was so liberating.
It was. And, it's so nice that you grew up with someone who was open, as did I. My mom always talked about intuition and psychic abilities and fairies in the garden, and this was normal conversation for us. But as you mentioned, it can be very traumatic to young people or anyone who might have a psychic ability or intuition. Can you talk about that a little bit, about that fear of being able to tap in?
Yeah, and I don't want to, like, in any way scare people off from being
Yeah.
psychic or intuitive. And we can talk about the difference between psychic and intuition. I think I got a great therapist at one point, and it actually was in my late 20s. I just quit the corporate world, and I was like, I literally think I'm crazy. I'm going crazy, and I'm like, and she listened to my whole story, and then she said, I don't think you're crazy. I think you're psychic. And so, miracle of miracles, I somehow got with this woman who was able to, and then my dad revealed this whole thing about my grandmother, and then all the pieces started coming together. And I remember one of the things she said to me is that you have been traumatized and you were psychically dysfunctional, that I was too psychically open, right? Do I have issues with psychic phenomena now? No. Do I pull in dark energies? No. And remember, as a child, the psychic phenomena I was experiencing was dark energy. It was dark forces. And I think that was a big part of the traumatic stuff. But in working with this amazing therapist and also taking care of my emotional health, I mean, also taking a look at my own addiction, right? When you're out of balance, you're going to attract in things that reflect being out of balance. If you're a healthy person, if you're in your body, you're going to not attract in dark energy, right? And so, what the term she said to me was, "You're psychically dysfunctional." And so, I really then began to heal, learn how to be in my body, how to set energetic boundaries, to learn that intention, that I could be mindful and make choices about what I was experiencing. It's not a free for all out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I didn't
Can
know
choose.
these things.
So let's talk about your definition of intuition, and then will you talk about the difference with between intuition and psychic abilities?
Yeah, and great. This is such a great question. And to me, intuition, we're all intuitive. Intuition is a natural sense, it's our sixth sense, right? So we experience intuition in our body. Yeah, here, third
Mhm.
eye, heart chakra, third chakra. And I do believe that intuition is communication from spirit in your body. I call intuition your spiritual intelligence, right? And so it's this very natural ability. We're all intuitive, we're getting these knowings and feelings and all that. The psychic realm is not the physical realm. So the word psychic means of the soul. And when I'm doing psychic readings, I'm not in the physical realm. I'm in the spiritual, psychic, energetic realm. And the way I often describe it is you've heard the concept of like the unified field, right? So this is where we're
Why don't
all
you explain that? Because I bet a lot of people don't know what that means.
the
So
unified field
please.
is a concept, it's quantum. I think it's pretty standard now that the scientists have signed off on this, right? It's the idea that we're all connected. We're all energy. And so when you think about telepathy or, how do you know things? And this would go back to intuition. We're all connected to each other. We're all dialoguing with each other in this field. Nobody's separate, right? And so the ability, intuition, I think, is also connecting into spirit and the unified field. Now, the psychic realm is more like it's the different dimensions. Psychic is beyond time and space, right? And time and space is a concept in the 3D world that we live in. But when you're in the psychic realm, you're on the other side. You're in another dimension. You could be in a parallel life. You could be in the past. You could be in the future. So it's where all these things merge into one. But to me, it's not a natural physical experience like intuition. It's where I leave my body to some degree and travel interdimensionally and get the information.
Okay, so that is such great separation between those two pieces of our conversation today. I want to ask our audience how many people that have joined us feel like they can lean into their intuition. And so if you would put into the chat, um, do you feel like you're intuitive? Do you get intuitive hits? Um, so let's see who's joined us today. Deborah says yes, 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 yes. Hi, Kelsey. Um, Definitely. I use my intuition all the time. Oh my gosh, I love this. I definitely follow mine. Yes,
Look at all those
yes, yes,
yeses.
yes. Oh my gosh, yes, but rarely. So we're okay. Yes, especially after I dealt with my trauma. Interesting, Barbara. Thank you for sharing. Ruth says, I can't give you an example, but I regret when I don't go to my gut. Um, I know all the clairs and was supposed and some
Ah,
and surprised to be I'm a clairvoyant. I ignore it, Divya. We're gonna get you tapped in pretty soon. Richard, hi. Experienced it at first as a facilitator. I'm not sure. So all really great information for us to have because we're going to learn how to tap into it a little bit more in a little bit more time here. So, tell us, like, how do you, and we're going to do a little workshop in a few minutes. So, but I want to talk about a few more things here. So, how do you begin to tap into your, what we like to call your spiritual GPS?
Yeah, yeah, that's a really great question. And as we're separating it out from the psychic realm, and if people can really realize, because sometimes I think people have fear around it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm scared of this, or is it going to make me out of control? And so putting it in the context and understanding that this is a very, very natural ability that we have. You're experiencing it in your body. It's one of your natural gifts. Like taste and sight and sound, we have intuition. And we can talk a little bit about the disconnect and the baggage that intuition has. But intuition, I really feel like, as I said, is communication from spirit into your body. And so in your body, you have to learn how to listen. It's really listening. In fact, the mystics describe intuition as deeper listening or deeper knowing. And so, how do we learn how to listen to our intuition? You have to get out of your head. So we have these very brilliant minds that tend to run the show, and we tend to live in a lot in our minds and our intellect, right? But intuition, so it doesn't come here. It comes through down from spirit into the body. Exactly, exactly. And so we quiet our mind and I think breath is a great way to get in our body, and we quiet our minds and we learn to listen what's going on here. And the way intuition works is, I always say intuition doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles. It's not going to give you a long diatribe about what to do. It's going to be a sense of, this feels right. This doesn't. I should go here. I shouldn't. It's a knowing of something. It's a confirmation of something. You use the word nudge, Joni, which it's a nudge in a certain direction. Now, the thing about intuition, it doesn't always make sense in the moment. It's not always linear, right? So the key, really, if you want to really have a relationship, and it's a relationship with your intuition, is you have to start with trust. That is the key factor. And a lot of times when I'm working with
To
people
be
around,
open, right?
to be open and to pay attention. Where we put our awareness and our attention is what we receive, it's what we attract. And a lot of times when I'm working with people and helping them to develop their intuition, I say keep an intuition journal. Start to write down. I
That's
got a
such a great
prompting,
idea.
write it down.
Mhm.
I had a sense of thing, write it down. Start to keep track. The other thing is, of course, when you're journaling or writing things down, it makes it more real. It makes it more manifest. It also is going to develop that attention and that awareness around your intuition. And by doing that, you're going to feel more intuitions coming to you, right? So the key though is whatever you get, whether it makes sense or not, you have to trust it. And that is so key, because how many of your audience out there have had that prompting and went, no, no,
Or
no, that
ignore
doesn't
it.
make sense.
Yeah. So I have to tell you something funny. So I was talking to one of my advisory board members this morning for Revel 11, and she goes, I just read a really interesting story on Substack. So she sent it to me, and it was about this woman who worked in a furniture store. And there was a desk and there was a table, a table, not with the legs, but just a table, round table sitting on top or on a wall over a desk. And she kept saying to the whole team that worked in this furniture store, aren't you afraid that that table is going to fall off the wall? And she said she'd worked there for a long time and she kind of always stayed away from the desk because she just had this feeling in her heart of hearts that something was going to happen to that table um, that was on the wall. So on her very last day, she was meeting with everyone to say goodbye, and someone asked her to go over to the desk to get something, and she forgot about her intuitive hit about not to go close to that desk, and the table fell on her head.
Oh no. Oh my
It
gosh.
actually fell on her
Oh,
head.
Oh,
And that's as far as I got in the story, and I'm happy to send that to everyone. But I just, you have to listen. I mean, that's a very, very strong connection to an intuitive hit that she had. And for just 1 second, she forgot, and then she had a brain injury from this table falling on her head. Anyway, I mean,
wow.
that's a drastic story, but I think it's so interesting because sometimes we have that inner knowing that's so strong, and then there's that split second that we ignore it, or we ignore it for a very long period of time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because either, like you said, that people are afraid of it, and you were going to talk a little bit more about how that is for people
Yeah.
when they don't always listen because there might be something going on with them.
Yeah. 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 And that, wow. Talk about being
I
hit over
know.
the head by something. I mean, oh,
Yes.
oh my gosh. And I think a lot of why people disconnect to some degree is it didn't make any sense in the moment.
Right,
Sense.
right,
Like,
exactly.
why would I be worried of? Why would this come up? Right. And so that's why you trust. And then the other word I'd like to bring in here is the word commit. You know what I mean? It's commit to your trusting. And ultimately, if you think about it in a bigger way, you're learning to trust yourself because your intuition is communication from your higher self. And so if you say, I'm trusting and I'm going to commit to what I'm getting, that is committing to self. That is so empowering. It's all a part of learning to trust yourself. Now, with the fear factor here, I think intuition, just like the psychic realm, it carries so much baggage, right? And if you go back to, eons ago and, back in the day, intuition was very much a part of how people operated. Just, back in ancient times where we were connected to the earth and we were connected to the body and we were connected to the natural cycles of nature, all these things, these natural things, right? And intuition, that knowing, was all a part of it. And then through time and modernization and politics and the patriarchy and the rise of the church, we were
Mhm.
encouraged or even persecuted or punished for this natural gift because ultimately it empowered us. It gave us a sense of direction. It gave us a connection to the earth. It gave us knowledge and wisdom. So the powers that be did not want the individual to be empowered. So it becomes weird. It becomes witchcraft. It becomes women's craziness, right? And so throughout time, we've been made to feel like it's a scary thing. It's not natural. It's of the devil. You don't know anything. We know everything, right? And so I feel like, and it's all changing now in the planet. We're in this major awakening that's happening,
Major
a
awakening.
major awakening. And I think that's why I get passionate. It's like, how do you tell? Nothing is rational in the world anymore. Nothing makes sense, right? So if nothing makes sense, where are you going to go? The only place you could go is here. You can't base your reality on this because it's constantly changing and we don't really know what's real, not real anymore. So your intuition is your most powerful tool that you have right now to negotiate. Do I get on the plane? Do I go over here? Do I do it? If you're in alignment, that's another great word. Is you know what I mean? Is if you're in alignment, you're gonna know I'm not getting on that plane. Okay, it's okay to go over here. I'm gonna do this. That does not jive with me. That does not feel right. So
It's okay
that's
to
we're
say
getting that
no. I mean,
power
all
back.
of these things, absolutely. And who doesn't want to tap into more intuition? So we have that trust in ourselves to
Yeah.
be able to step forward in a powerful way. So I'm just going to ask our audience today, would you like to be able to tap into your intuition more? So I'm going to have Megan do an exercise for us because women, we as women, and Richard, who's also on here, I might add, um, want to be, I mean, we're so much closer to our intuition than a lot of on the masculine. And so it's very exciting to have you here today to help us tap in, like to get closer to ourselves and to be a brighter spark for the world as we go into this awakening that is happening now, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like that. But let's stay in the awakening side of
Yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm going to pass it over to you.
Great, great. And also, I just want to make one comment is intuition is a feminine property, but we all have male and female energy. So,
Absolutely.
right, right, yeah. To me,
Absolutely.
it's like the
Yes. Thank you
sacred
for saying
feminine.
that.
Yeah, yeah, sacred feminine. So, what I would invite our audience to do is just to close your eyes for just a minute, right? Everybody just kind of close their eyes, and you're in a safe space right now, and I'm just going to guide you through this little exercise to ground into our bodies and align. And so, just start to take a moment. Your eyes are closed, and pay attention to your breath as you're breathing in and you're breathing out, and knowing that with each inhale, you're connecting into spirit or your higher self or the divine. And with each exhale, you're releasing old toxic energy. So, breath is situating you in your body in the best sense. So, just take those breaths, notice the breathing in and the breathing out, and maybe even deepen that breath a little bit, just allowing it to go deeper in your body, really getting in that belly as you breathe in and you breathe out, and just breathing. So, just a reminder to you when you're really overwhelmed or you want to connect into it, pay attention to intuition, take those few moments and breathe into your body as a way of getting into your body. And now, what we're going to do is we're going to just take a moment to ground a little bit to planet Earth here, because it's really helpful as we move through the world to have that grounding. So, the way that we move energy is through visualization and intention. So, go into your mind's eye and begin to visualize or experience or feel the earth energy deep, deep within the very, very core of the earth. And just take a couple deep breaths and experience that rich, abundant energy of Mother Earth as it rises up from the core of the earth and rises upward, 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 and connects into your body through the bottom of your feet, and continuing to breathe and experience and feel into and visualize that rich, abundant energy of Mother Earth as it rises up to the bottom of your feet, to the bottom of your legs, upwards into your thighs, and then connecting into your root chakra at the base of your spine. Breathing in and breathing out. Feel and connect that earth energy into your second chakra, your third chakra, and then upwards into your heart chakra, upwards into your throat chakra, your third eye, and then feel and visualize and experience that rich, abundant, grounding energy of Mother Earth as it shoots out from your crown chakra, upward, upward, upwards into the heavens. And then just take a breath and experience the richness of that earth energy as it circulates through your body and through your chakra system, connecting you to Mother Earth. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to align our energies. And by align, I mean connecting to higher self, your divinity, spirit, whatever resonates for you. So, once again, go into your mind's eye, begin to experience, visualize, feel the white or gold light of spirit, of soul, of divinity as it moves downward from the heavens, downward, 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 and enters the top of your head through your crown chakra and moves downward. Continue to breathe, experience the white or gold light of souls that moves through your third chakra, downwards through your throat chakra, into your heart chakra, downward into your third chakra, downwards into your second chakra, downwards into your root chakra, breathing in, experiencing, visualizing the white or gold light of spirit, of divinity that moves downward through the top of your legs, downward the bottom of your legs, and then experience and feel it and see it as it shoots down through the bottom of your feet, downward, downward, downward into the very core of the earth. And then just take a moment and experience those energies as they're circulating, the rich energy of groundedness of Mother Earth and the higher energies of spirit and soul as they circulate and intertwine in your chakra system and throughout your body. And just breathe into that, knowing now that you are grounded and aligned. Just take a couple of breaths there. And now, what I would invite you to do is to focus your energy in your heart chakra. And the heart chakra is one of the chakras where we receive a lot of intuitive energy. Some people experience it more in their third eye, some people in the heart chakra, some people in the third chakra. Wherever it feels right to you, I like to start with the heart because it just aligns us with everything, our higher wisdom. And so just breathe into your chakra, your heart chakra. Just breathe in there and feel your mind quieting and just feeling your presence in that heart chakra. And then ask yourself, what does my spirit need me to know today? What does my higher self want me to know? What do I need to know today? Intuition, let me know. And just take a few moments in that energy. If it wants to move up to your third eye or down your third chakra, it's all good. But just see what's coming up. And, intuition can be very subtle. It can just be a feeling of like, everything's okay. It's going to be okay. Or it could be rather dramatic, like, you know what? You need to make some choices or you need to go over here later, right? Just allow whatever it is to come up and reveal itself to you. And if you feel, fear, just breathe in, just breathe into that energy, knowing that it's natural and it's connected to who you are. And just take a few moments and see what comes up around what you need to know. And now, as you're connecting into that, I also want to end our little workshop here with another thing that I think is so powerful for people, and that is setting our energetic boundaries. And I think probably a lot of our audience out there are sensitives and empaths, and that tend to absorb all that energy, so much of that negative energy in the world. So once you've had a moment or two to connect into what you need to know, and by the way, you guys, you can do this every day in the morning before you go out in the world. Then you go forward aligned and connected, and you've set the intention to receive this information, right? You put the awareness there. So you can do this whenever it feels right, but let us once again go into our mind's eye, and begin to experience and visualize and feel into your aura. And your aura is like your psychic bubble, it's your sacred space. And your aura fluctuates. It's anywhere from 1 to like 9 feet, all the way around you. It's like this big old cosmic bubble. And your aura, like I said, is your sacred space. And so we want to inhabit our aura just like we want to inhabit and be present in our bodies. Because the more present we are in our bodies, the more we're going to receive intuition, and the more present we are in the bodies, the more our natural boundaries as we move through the world are intact. So visualize that aura, feel into, experience that aura, and then fill up that aura with your energy. Take ownership of your sacred space. Just fill it up with your energy. And now you're fully inhabiting your aura, your sacred space. And then one final thing I would say to you is you can add a layer of protection around your aura as you move through the world. Though what I like to do is I visualize or experience the color blue. Blue, sacred blue. To me, Mother Mary has a beautiful natural protection energy. And so I visualize the color blue all the way around my aura, and then I set an intention. And remember, intention set energy, that this is my sacred space and nothing or no one penetrates it without my permission. And then look at you, you're grounded and you're aligned and your energetic boundaries are intact and you're ready to move through the world.
That was beautiful and amazing. Thank you so much, Megan. I'd love to know how you all are doing out there. How was that experience for you? I feel very grounded. And
Good,
your
good,
voice
good.
is so amazing.
Oh, thank you,
It
thank you.
takes you so many different places. Calming and reassuring. Kelsey
Mm,
said calming.
mhm. I think so many of our nervous systems are so overtaxed right now. You know what I mean? Because of just being in the world, right? And again, that's where, getting back in your body, you know what I mean? And getting back into that inner wisdom, which is another great term for intuition is inner wisdom. There's so much
Mhm.
wisdom in your body. You know what I mean? There's so much wisdom in your chakras and in that intuition, which is experienced in the body. Oh my gosh. It's like I always say, everything you need, it's just all right
Right
there.
there. I heard this saying is that we, go out to counselors and I think that they're very important but they use this acronym GURU.
GURU.
G, you are you. So guru, GURU. And so I always love that because there's the wisdom is within. So you are the guru.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are the guru. Yeah.
And they
So,
talk
uh,
about this in spiritual circles on the planet. That's up for everybody right now is to find your inner guru. I mean, that's part of the movement of the planet, the individual empowerment. And intuition is very much a part of that.
so we have Nora says the meditation exercise reminded me that I need to start doing this every day. Thanks, Nora. It's
Yes.
nice to have you here. Karen said, Guru, that's fabulous. I feel very calm and I feel happy and light.
Mm,
Ronnie, I felt able to drop in and connect me with my body. And honestly, I haven't felt like that before. So kind of crazy. I'm so glad to hear that. This type of workshop and meditation touches people in so many different ways. I've been
yeah.
wondering if anybody had an intuitive hit
Mm,
during the meditation. Someone said that they were going to trust their new relationship, which is fabulous. Anybody have an intuitive hit during that time?
we're also doing it. I would be curious if anybody had any fear. Did
Mm,
anybody feel like get scared when they started to go in or have a hesitation or anything like that as well?
yeah. Um, Jane said, mine said to relax. I like that. Calm it all down. We're all right here, right now. And that's all also the meditation in itself that we can use every day is that we are right here, right now. And, we're, like you said, there's so many different pulls from the news and social media and our families and our animals and our plants. And, all of these things are pulling at us. But if you just sit still, you're right there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's really hard to remember sometimes.
Well, I think it's hard to remember, and I don't want to set any of this up to be hard, but sometimes it's hard to do. And like
Mhm.
sometimes, I don't know about you guys, I'm a meditator and I do this every day as well. I don't think I could function on the planet, quite frankly, if I didn't take time to do this. But, the minute you sit down to meditate, every distraction I start thinking about my grocery list, I start thinking about my day. And I think that our conscious minds is so used to being in charge. You know what I mean? And so to quiet ourselves down and get out of our head, I think we think that we're more in control when we're in our minds, like we're controlling things by analyzing or figuring, which is of course not true. But it's a different mindset, right? But I think for people, just the discipline, and there's a reason why they call it a spiritual practice or a spiritual discipline. It's cumulative. I think to me, consistency is key. You know what I mean? Because then you're being proactive. You have a foundation as you go out in the world, as things come up, instead of doing it when, oh my God, I'm freaking out. I got to get back in my body. You know what I mean? Intuition's like a muscle. The more you do it, the more you develop it, it's stronger. You know what I mean? So it will be always with you.
Well, and I think going back to the monkey mind,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
far as, again, just like I was saying, there's so many different poles, but our mind is, all these negative thoughts. Like I was walking with somebody who's on today, and she said this morning, I woke up with these negative thoughts. And
Mm,
it's like, wow, I just recently heard the statistic that 80% of our thoughts are negative, and that's a
wow.
huge
Wow.
percentage of
Wow.
your day to day. So it's like, how do we invite in more positivity, more calm, and control this thing up here that really runs our world? And being able to tap in like you just helped us do, Megan, is a wonderful way to remember to do that.
Right. And the other thing is just to go back to like the idea of trusting and stuff. Even if you get an intuition that's negative, like don't go there or this isn't going to work out, you know it's right because it feels right. So all intuition isn't positive, right? It may be a bit of a little warning or like the table is going to fall off the wall, right? But how do you know how to trust it? It's like it just feels right. And I say this to people when they have sessions with me or with other psychics, and they're like, well, how do I know if the information is true or right? And I'm like, because it either feels right or it doesn't, right? So know that there is a feeling of rightness with intuition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think when you work with somebody, to your point, that you take what you need and you leave what you don't. And that's that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I always say that to people, because I've gone to a lot of psychics over the years, and I take what I need and I leave what I don't, and that has worked really well for me. And that's an invitation to know yourself well enough to know what works and what doesn't.
Well, this is also the guru point you brought up is don't turn your power over. Just because someone's psychic doesn't mean they're wise. Intuition is wisdom. Psychic is the ability to channel information. I say that about spirit guides. Just because someone's not in a body doesn't make them wiser than you are. You have to have agency in these experiences. Plus, with a psychic, my information is channeled through Megan, and Megan has opinions and Megan has a, belief system. And whatever that information is, when you're working with someone, it will be channeled through them. And that's why you want to make sure you have that alignment.
Yeah, and Richard mentioned that he feels this alignment in nature, and as do
Yes.
I. And
Yes.
taking yourself back into something that we're so, for most of us, are so disconnected to,
Yes.
is that's why many of you have heard over the years I walk Green Lake almost every day, so
Yes.
that
Yes.
I
Yes.
start my day near nature, that I'm hearing the birds, that I'm seeing the seasons change. And that is such an important way to tap into the wisdom of the universe.
Absolutely. Because you know why? You're present. You're not in your head, you're smelling, your senses are activated. And intuition is one of those senses, you know what I mean? And that's where I said back in the day, we were connected to nature and its cycles and the moon and the goddess energies and we're so disconnected from our bodies nowadays. So it all, natural ability, nature, it all connects us.
So, Megan, I am just so thrilled that you were here today. I had a reading from Megan a couple of months ago, and I'm like, wow. So tell our audience how they can work with you in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, and thank you for that. The best way to get in touch with me is through my website, which is meganskinner.com, and that's MEGANSKINNER. I do private sessions with people. I'm also an astrologer, so I also do astrology sessions. I have a YouTube channel, and every month I do a monthly collective tarot reading where I use the cards to explore what the energies are for each of the signs of the zodiac, which is really fun. I have a
So
podcast
interesting.
with my colleague Stephanie Galing. It's an astrology podcast. It's called So Divine. And again, we go through what's happening each month with the astrology. And then also on my website, you'll see I have books out there. And as you mentioned, my tarot deck, which is coming, the second edition will be coming out this fall from Schiffer Publishing. So I'm excited.
Fantastic.
And I have a deck of angel oracle cards that is in development. So, some of these more, and I created the art. So Megan's coming into a bit of her artistic personality these days as well.
And so let's talk about that because we have a few more minutes
Yeah,
left.
yeah.
So, I was very intrigued that you are tapping into your creativity now. How did that creativity get sparked?
I think, I had a conversation with a friend about this the other day about imposter syndrome. You know what I mean? My mother was an artist. My sister's an artist. And so Megan was always the writer. I've always been the writer, and that was my creative expression, right? But when I really tapped in, I remember it was actually, I created the deck of cards and I had never done art in my life. My mother was passing. And I was very close to my mother, and she was an artist that never got fulfilled, and she was passing, and I was in such a state of grief. I was beside myself. And so I'm like, I don't know how to process this or facilitate it. So I thought, I need to make art, right? So I thought, well, I'm not an artist. So I started doing collage art, right?
Mm.
And collage, I started cutting out. I'm a fashion junkie. I'm addicted to fashion magazines. And I started cutting images out of fashion magazines because I had so many. And of course, I love the tarot. So I did a tarot card. And then one tarot card ended up into another tarot card. And so this whole process of creating art would soothe my soul and became my meditation and a way of connecting into my higher self has taken off from there. But I tell you, I had to work through some things like even to say, I'm an artist. Oh my gosh, I can say I'm a clairvoyant till the cows come home, but yeah, I'm an artist. You know what I mean? It's just so funny how, we, the imposter syndrome, right? So art and
Absolutely.
writing is such a great way to connect into your higher self as well.
And Jody said, I was so much more intuitive when I was practicing
Mm,
artist decades
I
ago.
bet. I
Yeah,
bet.
and I
Sure.
also want to just note about grief and putting your
Mm,
grief into a creative practice. It's also
mhm,
something that I heard about last night from we had a garden tour here in Seattle with Rebel 11 and Laureen Faulkner Edwards. She has this beautiful garden and she did a book, and it was during a time when she had lost her dad, and she started painting and she put all of the paintings into her book. And so it's
mm,
an incredible opportunity to tap into things that you might say, I'm an artist, but to blossom into that next iteration of yourself. And
yeah.
I'm just so excited for you to present your creations to the world, Megan, in two ways, the intuitive and the creative side.
Yeah, and also just like for classes and stuff, and I'll be doing this fall. I do teach soul collaging too,
Oh,
and so what the collage also brought forth, because it's a spiritual process, is to get people together and lead them through creating their own collage, right? You call it soul collaging, and it's a very profound experience. And so there will be. I think I'll have a class for that this fall. You're reminding me to get that going again.
yes. Well, there we go. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Megan. I'm just in awe of you and your talents, and I hope everyone was able to tap into a calmer, intuitive state today and to let that be something that you take away from our session today. Thank you so much for
Oh
being
my
here.
gosh, Joni, thank you so much, and thank you to all the whole audience out there.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes. And I just wanted to say in a couple weeks after the 4th, I'll be interviewing Jen Berlingo on midlife emergence for your inner fire. So be looking for that. Thank you for joining us. Have a great 4th. We won't be around next week. I hope you enjoy time with family and friends and a festive time of year. So, and happy summer, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And thank you, Megan.